Getting the fundamentals to work has been interesting to say the least. I have learned a lot of things and skills during development, but also have had a lot of trouble with getting features to work properly. I have been working on the core system of the game, such as movement, interaction, inventory system, combat, AI, cutscenes, scripted events, puzzles and animation. Things are shaping up to looking pretty decent, and I think the time has come where I share my experiences during development with you guys. Two-handed system. The idea originated from the game Cry of Fear, where a player could equip 2 items at a time. My plan to approach this is to use a FPS arms that I found on the internet for free. These work really well, because I could utilize the Unreal Engine's layered blend per bone, and split the skeleton in half into a left and a right side. This meant, if I was careful and mindful, I would use each hand separately for different animations and states. I decided that the simplest way to ensure that the animation blueprint would recognize the state that the player is in is that I would use player blueprint's boolean variables to check on and off each state corresponding to what the player is holding or doing. For example, when player equips a flashlight, boolean describing flashlight equipped would be toggle on. This then would be referenced in the animation blueprint, and corresponding state would be turned on. This turned out being very simple and straightforward solution, and I got to work creating booleans, animations and animation states for each equipable item in the game. Then over time, some testing needed to be done, and there were a lot of problems with my approach. Things like reloading and shooting animation caused problems. It looked very weird. To fix this, I decided to utilize animation montages. This way animations could blend with the animation states naturally. Second issue was, which ties to inventory system, is that of multiple items being able to equip at the same time. This obviously broke a lot of things, and I had to figure out what the solution would be. In order to fix this issue, I had to develop a method where equipping items would either replace existing ones or the items would need to be unequipped before new ones could be used. I decided that I would use option 1, the replace equipped items approach, as I thought it would not slow down gameplay or make it confusing for players to interact with the UI and so on. So how does one replace items that are in use? I initially thought that I would create a function that detects which items are equipped and which ones need to be disabled and hook that logic somewhere, but I had no brain power at the time to bother with this. So I then thought, why not hardcode a check for unequipping when player decides to equip an item? So basically, when player equips an item, game will check if corresponding hand is already occupying an item in that hand. If yes, said item will be unequipped before continuing to equip the new one. This solution worked perfectly. However, having tons of items would cause the code to be unreliable and unreadable. But this was not an issue for me, since I know the scale of the project, which is awesome. Meant that I had nothing to worry about anymore, unless I decide to modify things in the future. Pistol. Creating a functional pistol was surprisingly not even that difficult. Just created an actor, made some references, added shoot event and drew a line trace, and that was already a great start. I don't have that much to say about the pistol itself. It behaves pretty much the same as any other pistol in a game. You can shoot, reload, aim down sights and so on. What I did add, however, and we will come back to this during the series, is impulse. One of the things that I really wanted to implement in this game is environmental responses to the player. Meaning, if player decides to shoot at something, it really should feel like it is affected by it. If player wants to pick up or break stuff, things should react to it. The presence of the player should be felt in the world, and the world should feel responsive. This definitely was an interesting challenge, and I decided to use actor tags that detect if the line trace hits an actor and if that actor has tag of movable. Then we can add impulse and push the object. It took a while to figure out, At one point, the objects were flying to the player, not away from it. I think I will refine gameplay and feel, but the core is there and it's working great. Oh, and adding damage to weapons was as easy as ever. You can generally just apply damage to hit actor or also use tags to check for specifically if they are enemy and so on. More on those things later on. Interaction. For interacting with objects, as in picking up things and putting them down, I decided to use this interaction system that I had already acquired from the store long time ago. This also provided a great base for some puzzles I would be implementing later on. For my purposes and needs, this did not work out of the box too well, and I had to do a lot of modification to the provided code in order to get it working as I wanted. In my game, I want to have the player use boxes and objects to reach certain things and use them to navigate some parts of the map. This meant that the player should have collision with said objects. Problem number 1 was that in order to achieve this, the objects must become immovable when clashing with the player. Meaning, if player walks into a small box, instead of pushing it slightly, it would not react and stare like a huge boulder. Adjusting mass gave the possibility to push things again, but then became problem number 2. Boxes would freak out when player jumped on top of them. Now that the objects reacted to the player, they reacted way too much, making any parkour or navigation with them impossible. I actually had a lot of trouble with this, and I actually almost gave up on the feature. But then I chose to mess with the objects' linear and angular damping, and for some reason that did fix the issue. It does demand some fine tuning. Before that, let me tell you about the third problem that arrived. Object surfing. This was hilarious, and thought how fun it would be to have the players surf and fly around the world with objects. But I decided to be a buzzkill and fix this issue. I actually had some trouble figuring out what to do with this issue, but I once again had to dive in to the interaction system's code and locate few things. I eventually found some code that handles when the player is interacting with an item, and there I set the object to ignore the one who is handling the said object. This fixed the issue. Then I had to obviously re-enable collision with the player when player lets go of the object. I think this will do for today's devlog. I have made plenty of progress on a lot of things, and I can reveal a secret to you guys already. The very first technical playtest is almost completely done and ready for deployment. I have acquired few volunteers to playtest my game, and I am excited how it goes. But I think there are a couple of devlogs before I can share my experiences with that. Stay tuned for the next devlog, where I share how I got my inventory system set up and got some environmental things working, such as deadly fog, puzzles, safe game functionalities, and so on. Thanks for watching, and see you guys real soon.